Well, it is Saturday afternoon, and we are at what we call the Macon Farm. Property owned by some friends of ours, about 25 acres that we graze here. And this is where we keep the boys. So this is the bulls, and the steers spend their spring, summer, and fall out here. And what's remarkable about this property is although it has one pasture, it's about 10 acres that actually has a halfway respectable perimeter fence around it, and that's a cattle fence with barbed wire around the top. Parts of it are barbed wire. We had to do a bunch of patching and repair to it because it's a good place to put the cows when we go on vacation. And so got them over here behind me. What's really amazing about this small acreage grazing and doing this as a hobby is the advent of the electric fence and the polybraid, really. Polybraid with a solar energizer. And so I have just run an 1/8" rope along here that has stainless steel and copper woven into it. And that little bitty 1/8" rope, just about 18 to 30 inches off the ground, will keep these big old animals inside of the paddock where I want them. So we've given them about enough for a week. So they get it mowed down. I'll show you where they were prior to this. Right now, grass is knee high. But before, they were over here and they had this mowed down. They ate everything except the briars, and yeah, they've got it down, and the couple of other things that they won't touch. But you can see the difference here. This is mowed down, and there's some multi-floor rows over there that they'll chew the tips off of, but otherwise they leave it. And so you can see the difference between that and this over here where they are now. So they'll be out here for a week, and then we'll move them long enough that they're not really picking up the parasite cycle, and there's so much out here to eat that they can do that. And so it lets us move them just on the weekends, which works great for folks like me who have a normal job during the week. But the advent of this polybraid with a solar energizer is just fantastic. Would not be able to do this without it. Wouldn't be able to do the rotational grazing, that is, without it, because it allows us to put them on tiny spaces, relatively small space. I wouldn't say tiny. You can put them on a tiny space and move them super frequently, but that's Charlie Brown back there, our primary herd bull. But anyway, yeah, it just allows us to move them, put them exactly where we want them, using just these little fiberglass stakes and a single strand of polybraid. Now, I don't raise kind of commercial breed of animals like Herefords and Angus and that sort of thing. We raise these super gentle and docile Irish Dexters, and that's a key part of us being able to do this style of management, is that we do raise animals that are super gentle and not always trying to bust out. So if you raise good animals and cull the ones that are problems, like Charlie. Where is Charlie? Not Charlie Brown, but there's another one that one of my daughters named him Charlie. Here he is over here. This guy over here, he can be a little bit of an obstinate one. He's got a bit of a Napoleon complex. Little guy with horns and Napoleon complex makes him a bully. He's a steer, but he's a bully. And so he will be going soon to the butcher. I don't know if he'll go in May, but he'll definitely be going in July. So We'll see who gets in the trailer first, him or this one back here, the black one with horns back there. He's the biggest steer, most ready to go. But Charlie's just kind of ornery. It's not as bad with them over here on this farm. We moved them from the house. They're on the move. They decided all of a sudden they wanted to skedaddle. I'm gonna go follow them over here. What's funny is that this polybraid isn't even energized right now, and they would stay behind it for a time. I'll show it to you. That's it right there. Little bitty, about eighth of an inch thick rope with metal braided into it. And you saw them run off a second ago. Well, they stopped as soon as they hit that line, fence line. So they will not test it. If you leave it off long enough, they'll go through it or under it. They're not quite like pigs. Pigs will test a fence multiple times a day, every day, and you'll hear them scream. And you've got to leave it hot. Cows, you can get away with, once they're trained, not energizing it. But out here, because it's not at the house, I don't want to take any chances. It's about a mile from our house. And so I'm not taking any chances, but it's just fantastic that I can set up this little bitty strand right there and keep a herd of cattle behind it. It doesn't matter how thirsty they are or how hungry they are, to a point, they will stay behind that line. So anyway, I've been refilling their water. I'm gonna walk up here and turn on the energizer, sorry. It's running about 10,000 volts. Got a tester here from Premier1, and get all this stuff from Premier1. So I'll test it before I leave, but we've generally been running between 8 and 10,000 volts, which if you're barefooted and you touch that, it will light you up. Even if you've got good rubber boots, you'll still feel it a little bit. But if you're barefooted, or like I did one time, I was working on a fence. I knew it was electrified, but I had forgotten that I had my back on a metal fence. And so at the same time that I accidentally touched the electric fence, I was also touching the metal fence, and grinded out between my arm and my back, and I could feel it go through my chest and through my arm and out my back, and that was a painful experience. So I'm gonna ride up here real quick and show you that energizer. Take off the brake first. So this right here is our energizer. It's let's see what it's called. The Solarstop 80. There it is. Solarstop 80. I realize that's backwards for you, but it's a Solarstop 80 from Premier1. Right now, that orange ticking light says that it is charging. I love this new style here. We had the IntelliShock, but these new ones I like even more because it stays charging even when it's turned off. So this is our ground rod right here. That's what sends electrical current into the ground if the circuit gets completed through one of the cows. So there are two on switches, one for full power and the other for half. And so that is on. So now I'm going to check it. right here. And you see we're over 8,000. I have another energizer here that I'm gonna try. Not an energizer, I have another tester. So it's hard to do this without 3 hands. I put a probe down in the ground that completes the circuit. And then this is also from Premier1. Hold that to it. It's 9.7. So that's very good. 10. So that's 10 kilovolts or 10,000 volts. So you can imagine it's like Timmy on, you touch that, it's like Timmy on Jurassic Park. It'll light you up, and you'll remember the day that you touched that fence. So that's how we're able to keep the cows behind the fence. I've been out here once this week to check on them during the middle of the week, and then now to move them. So you can do that with confidence when you've got a good energizer with a lot of spark in it, and you've got good cows and plenty of food and plenty of water. So I do have a lane for them. Rather than having to move their water every time, I've got a lane that goes all the way along here and back. And so every time I move them, I just reel up that line and move it a little bit further up and a little bit further up. So eventually they'll be all the way up here and won't need this lane, but I do need to put a back fence in behind them so they're not grazing the area that they came from. So anyway, you can see their water is just about full right here, but this lane is awesome, and it makes moving them a whole lot easier because I don't have to move the water. The water stays here, and they just access it the same way every time, so they know exactly where it is. So after they get finished here, I'll show you where we're going. Here in about 2 weeks, and the grass has really gotten ahead of us. It just started growing really fast. It was pretty slow for a while, and then it got ahead of us. So we may even move them midweek up there so they can finish that pasture and come out here before this gets too tall. You can see the fescue's already gone to seed, but the grass is coming up underneath there, the Dallas and the crabgrass and the other grasses. We don't want them to get too woody before we move them. So we've got about another 12 to 15 acres out here, about 12 acres out here that we need to graze them through. So it's some good grass. It's gotten better this year than it was last. It was really, really thorny last year. And there is a pond over there that we'll let them drink out of when they're on this area right here. So anyway, that's how we're grazing our steers and bulls in West Tennessee. I think I've mentioned before, our dams and their babies are all back at our house grazing pastures there. So we just don't have enough pasture for the 27, 28. It's more than that now with the calves. With that many head, we don't have that much pasture at our house. So we split them up between these two, and it works well, and it keeps the boys away from the girls until we're ready for breeding season. So that'll be coming up in July here in a couple months. Late June, early July, we'll get Charlie Brown moved over with the girls, and he'll be with them for a time until we let Charlie, or let the other bull, Big Jake, come over, just in case Charlie Brown missed any. So anyway, that's what's going on here in West Tennessee. I'm going to sign off now. Hope y'all are having a great day, and we'll see you again soon.